Good day, everyone. Neophyte DAG bringing you another message. And this is part 2 of the message series, PaRDeS, which is the interpretation of the Bible, the way how to interpret the codes that are in the Bible. And we'll pick up from where we left off, where we started to talk about the 4 codes, which is Peshat, Remez, Derash, and Sod. And what we're going to talk about here is the importance of getting from Peshat, literal meaning, to Sod, which is the esoterical, hidden, secret, spiritual meaning of words, phrases, verses, and scriptures and stories that are in the Bible. Let's get started. Let's recap where we left off in part 1. We stopped at defining what is PaRDeS, and we talked about Peshat, which is the surface literal meaning. We covered Remez, which is the deep, hidden, symbolic, allegoric, or parable meaning. We touched on Derash, which is now you have to research the allegory and the parables to compare them with a story, another story that's given elsewhere in your life or elsewhere in the Bible, that you can draw a comparison because they're talking about the same thing. The one in the Bible, and then there's the other event, they're both going to have the same outcome. So you have to do that comparison. Similar occurrence, similar outcome. And then we touched on the Sod, which is always where you want to get to, where you have discovered the secret, mystery, and esoteric and mystical meaning behind every verse, scriptures, and chapters that are in the Bible. It's an esoteric book. So that's where we need to get to when we read the Bible, getting to that secret spiritual meaning. So that's what I'd wanted to recap to set the stage, that we go from the literal meaning of the Bible to a secret, mystery, esoteric, and mystical. And we're going to define what esoteric is. So I'm just giving you the regular words for now. One other thing I want to note, as pointed out to us in Daniel 10, verse 21, I will read it in Peshat first, but I will show thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth. And there is none that holdeth with me in these things, but Michael your prince. Now I'll read it in Sod. But I will show you Thoth, which is written of in the scripture of truth, the Bible. And there is none that knows these truth with me in these things that are written of in the Bible, but Louis, which is Israel, which is Jacob, your prince, which is also the Son of Man, as spoken of by Jesus, the person writing and speaking as Jesus in the New Testament. This is Louis, which is the Son of Man, who is supposed to come at our time. So that is the Sod. But what I want you to get from this is that there's only one person who's going to be given these truths, and it's the Son of Man, Louis, which will come at our time and to tell us the truth as they're written of in the Bible in code, but he's going to decode it for us. So what we have to do at this time is to know who Louis is, identify Louis, find Louis, and hear the truth that Louis is telling us at this time. Do your research, do your homework, and identify and find Louis. You must know who Louis is by this time. I've been sending a lot of information with Louis, so tie yourself to that truth, and you will fit yourself into Daniel 10, verse 21, where there's none that holdeth with Thoth in the truth that are written of in the Bible, but Louis, who is now your prince and soon to be your king. If you take Michael from Peshat all the way down to Sod, Michael becomes Louis when you get to Sod. That's one of the examples I just sort of throw out there to let you know that These codings were put in there to make sure that only the right people can take this book, decode it, and find the hidden meaning, the secret meaning that's in these stories that now you need to know. Couple of words I wanted to make sure you get the understanding of it. An allegor, because it just said the second part of it is an allegor. Let's go back. Remez, that's where the allegor is, right? And then Sod, that's where the esoterical meaning is. So that's where we're going to dig some more in. What's the allegor and what's the esoteric? So allegor, it's the hidden spiritual meaning that transcends the literal sense of the sacred text. Comes back to it. If you think you understand scriptures and sacred texts and the spiritual meaning just by reading the literal, you're out of your mind. You will not get there because there's hidden spiritual meaning in it. There's a physical meaning for it in the Bible, and there's also a spiritual meaning, whatever text, verse, scripture, story that you're getting has the hidden spiritual meaning in it. The quicker you come to grips with that, it's the better it will be for you to learn the Bible. Then what is a parable? Parables are all over the Bible. The initiate speaking as Jesus spoke only in parables when he's not with his disciples. So what is a parable? Usually a short, fictitious story that illustrates a moral attitude or a religious principle. So it's a story that you're getting that has a religious principle embedded in it. That's a parable. That's how the initiate speaking as Jesus spoke only in parable. A certain man had 2 sons, and one of the sons, he's giving you a parable, a short story. The prodigal son story is a short story that has a religious principle in it. What is fictitious? Usually a short fictitious story. Fictitious, imaginary. It's not a real story. That means a fiction. It's an imaginary story. So it's giving you an imaginary story that has a religious meaning in it. Doesn't mean the story actually existed, but I'm telling you the story so you can draw a religious similarity and principle out of it. That's why I gave you the meaning of fictitious. Another meaning of fictitious, conventionally or assumed or accepted, false, not real. The story isn't real in terms of what you're supposed to get from it. So if you're getting the literal meaning of a story that's not real, you already missed the mark. You got to go deeper and to find the hidden meaning or the religious principle you need to pull out of it. You notice allegor and parable have both spiritual in the meaning of it. Allegor, spiritual meaning. Parable, religious principle, still means spiritual principle. Let's go on. PaRDeS. What is it? The Bible scriptures are in code. The Bible is in code, people. There's no other way for me to tell it to you than just tell you bluntly, it is in code. It's an exegesis. What is exegesis? Critical explanation or interpretation of a text, especially of scriptures. So it's a critical explanation. The Bible, it's a critical explanation of texts, of scriptures, of spiritual things, of religious things. But I stay away from religion because religion is where man goes out and forms his own ideas about what is spiritual. So I'm going to always keep you unspiritual. It's a spiritual interpretation. That's the word exegesis. Esoteric, that's where we found that word in Sod. Intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with specialized knowledge and interest, just as I was telling you. The book is coded, so only those with specialized knowledge and interest will understand it, and only a small number of people will get that, because only a small number of people go past the first one, Peshat, which is the literal meaning. So any preacher, pastor, priest, rabbi, whatever their title is, Egyptologist, whomever, trying to tell you they know and understand the Bible from literal stories and they're not giving you the spiritual meaning to it, throw that explanation out the window. Everything in the Bible is spiritually connected. There's a spiritual meaning to it. Anyone who doesn't pull the spiritual meaning out of it is missing the entire full picture of it. And the esoteric word, you could see who started it. It originated with the Greeks. So they took the book. That's why I read for you when the book went from the book of Thoth to the Septuagint, and they were forcing it on the Egyptians now to learn the new way, which is the false way. They encoded it in esoteric language. Complete picture is coming and shaping out in front of you. That's why I took you through that long route, so I can bring you back here to show you why these things, PaRDeS, has to be incorporated in reading through biblical texts, spiritual texts, because they were all taken from its natural form and encoded esoterically, so only a small number of people with specialized knowledge and interest can understand. What are the interests? To keep the mass of people dumbed down. That's the common interest they have. They put it in codes. So PaRDeS again, each type of PaRDeS interpretation examines the extended meaning of a text. So every text has an extended meaning, not the literal meaning. Move yourself out of that literal. The Peshat means the plain, the contextual meaning, the plain meaning, what you see on the surface. Don't stop there. Remez is the allegorical meaning. What is the allegorical? There are similarities. One story telling another story, that's the allegoric. Similar to one story, similarity to another. So there's a hidden meaning in there. That's the allegory. It's telling you. The Derash, which is the metaphorical reason, comparing two stories again, but you got to do deeper research to compare them, to say, okay, I know about this story. How does this story relate to what's going on in the Bible? Because the Bible is pulling from actual events that occurred. So you'll hear something like, the Son of Man time will be the same as Jonah time, because as Jonah was a sign unto the Ninevites, so shall the Son of Man be. What does that mean? We'd have to go back to Jonah time, see what happened there, and then compare that to what's going to happen in our time, the Son of Man time. So that's how the metaphorical meaning gets pulled out. You got to compare two events, and those two separate events will have a similar outcome. The outcome of the two will be the same. That's the Derash. You got to go do some research. And once you do your research and tie in all the other three pieces, Peshat, Remez, and Derash, you'll get Sod, which is the hidden meaning. The text, stories in the Bible, scriptures in the Bible, they all have hidden meaning. You'll get some, you won't get some, but the more you apply these four things, you will get most of what you search for in the Bible, and your intuition will radiate and start giving you more meanings. I want to cover these last two, again, that were picked up here. Analogy. What is an analogy? A metaphor forms an analogy. What is a metaphor? Word or phrase literally denoting one thing, one object, one idea is used in place to suggest a likeness of another. That's where allegory comes in. Two things, but they have similarity based on the different contexts in which they're used. That's why the Bible is filled with metaphors. You just have to know how to pull them out. Analogy, the Bible again, is filled with analogy. Comparison of two otherwise unlike things based on resemblance of a particular aspect. Completely different, but they have similarities. That's what the Bible is filled with. It's filled with analogy and metaphors because it's buried in the way the Bible is constructed. You have to know PaRDeS and how to apply it when you're reading verses. You cannot escape it. Let's look at allegory, and that's why I pulled it out specifically as part of PaRDeS, is that in Remez, it's telling you the Bible has allegories in it, and let's go to the Bible for proof itself. We're going to read from Galatians 4, verse 24, where it says, which things are an allegory? It's telling you which things are an allegory. You need to figure out where the allegory is and be able to apply PaRDeS. For these are the two covenants, the one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth bondage, which is of Agar. So it's telling you there are two things, two covenants. One is a bad one is a good one. One puts you in bondage, one puts you in freedom. So figure out which is the allegory. Always two things being compared, and you have to grab the hidden meaning that's in it. That's where parable comes in. So PaRDeS is actively working here in the Bible, being demonstrated to you because they're telling you there are allegories in there. Dark saying. What are dark sayings? Dark sayings are hidden meanings that are in the Bible, and it tells you many times in the Bible there are dark sayings going on. Psalm 78 verse 2, I will open my mouth in a parable. It's telling you there. It's speaking in parable. What is a parable? A hidden meaning. I will utter dark saying of the old. I will utter secret sayings from older times. It's telling you the Bible has an allegory in it. It has parables in it. It has the Remez in it. So if you're getting the literal meaning, when the Bible Psalms, which is written by the initiate speaking as David, is telling you it's in parables. I'm saying things in parables, and I will utter secret things. And then you're supposed to get the literal meaning from the secret thing. Then it's not a secret thing. It's an open thing, but it goes against what's being said here. He'll say it in secret. So you have to go do the research to find out what the secret is. Okay, so simply what it is. It's a coded book, and you have to go decode it. Matthew 13, verse 35, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parable. It's repeating what was said by the prophet in Psalm 78, verse 2. I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. That's what it's saying. It's secret. The parables are hiding secrets behind them. So you thinking you're knowing these secrets by reading the literal sense will get you nowhere at all. It will keep you in captivity and keep you in destruction. That's why I say, go in and find the deeper meaning, the secret meaning. The Bible is an allegory. It's in parables. It's in PaRDeS. Finding the sod should always be your objective. Go beyond the literal meaning. You got to study to show yourself approved, to know the sod meaning that the Most High has buried in the book for you. These two verses are identical. They're telling you the same thing. Psalm 78, verse 2, and Matthew 13, verse 35. They're telling you absolutely the same thing. It's spoken of in parables, and there's hidden meaning. One says dark saying, this one is telling you kept secret, which is the same thing. Now this takes us to parables. Matthew 13, verse 13. This is the initiate speaking as Jesus now, talking right here. Therefore speak I to them in parables. We just know what parable is, secret meaning. Because they seeing, they see not. You can't see the true meaning. And hearing, they hear not. You can't hear the right thing. Neither do they understand. So it's telling you because of your lack of understanding It's being given to you in parables, and you have to go find the deeper spiritual meaning. It's not being said to you in secrecy or in dark saying because someone is being malicious. Not the case. It's being said to you because it wants you to study to show yourself approved. And those who are not worthy of the information, which is the infidel, the wicked, the ones who are the heathens, will not get it. But those who are highly spiritual beings will get it because they'll do the additional work and call upon their spiritual intuition to help them understand these parables. And then now they can see, and now they can hear, and now they can understand. Let's continue with Matthew 13, verse 34. All these things spake Jesus unto the multitude in parables. And without a parable spake he not unto them. He did not speak anything in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John that was not in parable, meaning it's secret saying. Only when he spoke with his disciple, you will see the interpretation given to you of what Jesus was saying. But all the other times in those books that he's not talking to his disciple, parables, secret saying, turn water into wine, walked on water, 5 barley loaves, 2 fishes, I'll make you fishers of men, all coded language. It's not the literal meaning as you have been told by the church, by your Christianity, by whomever, the Bible study, by your school, by your religious study in school, wherever you got it from. It's not true. He spoke only in parables. Only to the disciples when he's speaking with them. There are several occasions that he spoke to his disciples. Then he gave the actual interpretation. One of the stories is where the sower sowed the seeds, and some fell on the rocks, some fell on the thorns, some fell on fertile grounds, and he gave the explanation for that. Many times throughout, he did not give the explanation because you had to go study to show yourself approved of understanding what he's saying. There shall be no signs given to them except the sign of Jonah. There will be no sign given to them except the sign of Noah. Parables. So you got to go do your homework to see what happened during the time of Noah, what happened during the time of Jonah. Now the Bible again, the Bible knows that you will totally reject anything anyone is telling you that you don't know the Bible because you're reading it literally. It knows that. And it preempts that initially people are going to reject the idea that the Bible is in code because, again, it's their own laziness. They don't want to go in and do that extra work. Wherever extra work is needed, people stay away from that. Nah, that's too much work. I don't have time to do it. But they'll find the time to surf the net all day. But just to dig in and find more meanings, they will not have the time to do that. The Bible had preempted that. That's why it gave you 2 Corinthians 3, verse 6. Do you want to know the Bible? This is what you got to go through. Who also has made us able ministers of the New Testament? It's asking that question. Who made you teacher of the New Testament? Not the letter, not the literal words, but the Spirit. You got to call upon the Spirit to find out what the New Testament means, because the New Testament was highly coded. This is what this is telling you. For the letter killeth. The literal word will get you killed, will get you into destruction, will get you into captivity, but the Spirit gives you life. It knew you were going to say, man, I know the literal meaning, but it's telling you, if you want to get killed, go follow that literal meaning, and you shall get killed. Ask and you shall get it. If you ask for the literal and you ask to be killed, you shall be killed. Because the literal, the letter killeth, but the Spirit gives you life. And when it says kill, It's the physical way of how you say it, because eventually you'll get killed for your lack of knowledge, but it's talking mainly about your spiritual energy, your spiritual being that is within you. You are a spiritual being first, then a physical being put into a flesh, a human body, to be put here as a school, but you are a spiritual being first. So if you don't want to follow your spiritual being and follow the literal physical, this is what's going to happen to you. So read 2 Corinthians 3 verse 6 several times to know where you're going to end up if you're following the literal meaning. If you're stuck at Peshat and you don't want to look at Remez, Derash, and get to the Sod, this is what's going to be the outcome. 2 Corinthians 3 verse 6. So I'm going to stop it right here. And in the next message, I'll pick up on the actual now examples that are in the Bible that walks you through PaRDeS. I've given you a few in going through this message, where I'll throw in a few here and there, but I'll go now in more details and a live example of how PaRDeS is finding its way. One story you see is this way, another story, when you get to Sod, it's completely different. We'll shut this one down, and I'll see you next time. And as always, continue learning. Don't stop learning. Get knowledge, which will get you wisdom, which will get you understanding. And when you get those, put it in practice. Make it practical. Make it a part of your life. Take care and have a pleasant and wonderful day.